This is going to be a completely unscripted video, so apologies for any weird inconsistencies, blabbering. We'll see where this goes. Now, there's a few reasons why I quit RuneScape. Number one, I maxed. Once you max, all that's left to do is repeatedly kill bosses hundreds and hundreds of times. That's not fun. Not fun for me. Not fun for most people. Lots of people hate these really rare drop rates. And, you know, it just takes so much time. I know why they're built into the game. MMOs have to keep players playing between content updates because of the nature of being a live game that's constantly changing. Not a competitive game that relies on, say, for example, League. They do small little changes here and there, but nothing major. It doesn't need to be new content, it just needs to be little balance tweaks, things like that. But people are still interested in playing because it's a competition. With an MMO, there has to be something that drives people to play. And that drive is normally collecting stuff. Collecting, levelling up, they're the main two, right? It also explains partly why quests took a bit of a backseat when it comes to Jagex' plans, right? Quests can be completed once. How much time is that going to take? An hour? 2 hours? That's it. If you got a boss, for example, Zamorak, Elite Dungeon, one run through, probably about half an hour or something, especially to start with. So, you know, 4 runs, that's the same length as a quest, and people are going to do a whole lot more than 4. We just obviously had the Zamorak drop rates released, where it's, you know, 1 in 750 odd for a bow or whatever, and then it obviously goes down, and depending on enrage and stuff like that. But if you couldn't skip the dungeon, how much time would that be? So at least that's in there, or it'd be an absolute disaster. As it is, it's not great at all. But yeah, that's the problem. It's an MMO issue. It's not a RuneScape only issue when it comes to endgame, right? Endgame is always going to be slightly limited. RuneScape has got a good depth of bosses to play. When you reach endgame, there's a lot of different stuff and a lot of skill progression. Annoyingly, obviously, Crocius came out, and that is a skilling boss, which gives best-in-slot mage tank gear that's incredibly overpowered, and it requires a lot of players that like the PvM aspect of the game to do something completely different, which they don't really enjoy doing. I haven't heard someone really praise Crocius. It's always been very negative. And I can see, skilling bosses have definitely, it's a good idea. It's cool. It introduces a different way of doing a fight. But the problem with Crocius, unlike Big Game Hunter, is that every single fight is practically identical. With Big Game Hunter, sometimes you get a double spawn, sometimes you get a triple spawn, stuff like that. Just a bit of variance into the encounters. That's what Crocius seems to be lacking. I've not really done it much myself, but in all the sort of general feedback and stuff that I've got from listening, that is what people are saying. So that's reason number one why I left was I maxed, and I suddenly became very aware that the only real things that I could do were kill bosses hundreds and hundreds of times to get the drops. Obviously you can earn them and do them a different way or something like that, but that sort of just felt like it. Reason number 2, and this is more a case of why I haven't gone back to check out like the later Elder God Wars stuff, because I left and stopped playing around about the release of Arc Glacial. And reason number 2 is the incredible amount of just MTX rubbish, because there really is an absolute ton of it. I mean, the problem is, it makes money, right? MTX makes money. Like, a lot of money. Look at games like Raid Shadow Legends. They can sponsor so many people, and they sponsor people for a lot of money. All because of their MTX built into the game. People love to just buy stuff and buy progression, which, depending on the game, can be a bad thing, can not. Personally, I don't necessarily mind. I don't mind as much the fact you can buy stuff that gives you XP in RuneScape. Ideally, it would just be bonus XP. Because if it's bonus XP, you still need to engage with the content. You still need to find out where you need to go for the different levels, rather than just skipping over them with a straight XP handout. So that's probably where I'd sit on like the whole XP handout thing. Now the real issue with MTX is this whole rares, right? Party hats, Santa hats, Halloween masks. They all had that prestige, they're rare, they're really old items, and as such, the value was insane. So Jagex were like, oh, it's our 20th anniversary, let's bring out a new party hat, because it's a prestigious thing. That on its own, great. You could earn it pretty much on your own in-game. You didn't necessarily need to, like... well, actually, in fact, buying keys wouldn't do anything, because you could only earn one per account. I had no issue with the golden party hat. I thought that was a good thing. The problem seems to be in everything that's come past that. Like, the green Santa hat was just on Treasure Hunter, right? Like, obviously you could maybe have a slight chance at getting it if you played in-game, but it was a tiny chance. It's not enough. It's not like... there's no point in going for it or hoping for it that way. Then, obviously they've brought stuff back, like the Assassin's Walk came back, I believe, earlier this year. I may be wrong on some of these bits because I haven't been following it exactly. Then there's all of the... well, I mean, there's going to be the rewards from Fresh Start Worlds, which is a completely different kettle of fish. Especially if these halos are tradable, that are like, there's only 2,800 of them in-game at any one time. The challenger ones for like the top 100 in each skill and top 100 something else, so it's 2,900 I think. Them being tradable is going to be fun, because they're incredibly limited rares. But it's more a case of this, all of these like overrides and stuff like that have been put into the game at such a rare rate. You've got this latest Yak track with the renewable last step. I don't mind that as a concept. Having a completely like redoable final step of a battle pass is fine. On Rocket League, they have like season challenges and they do like event challenges. Some of those are repeatable, and you don't have to be, you know, locked in. Once you reach the end of the pass, that's it, nothing more. If you reach level, I think it's level 70 in the Rocket League pass, it might have been updated, it might be a bit more, but once you reach level 70, you just start unlocking different colours of like some of the items you've earlier unlocked, which is cool. That's a good thing. Like, you're just unlocking different variants of it, and that's a good way to do a battle pass. The problem with the Yak track is it's kind of a battle pass, but now it's suddenly been infused with loot boxes and other MTX. Because you can redo this task and buy skips, it makes it an incredibly, like, it's just not right. If you couldn't buy the skips for this final task, I don't think people would have an issue. If you had to actually spend the time and do it, and you could only get like a finite amount, you couldn't pay money to get them, I think it would be less of an issue. Now obviously this shouldn't be an issue at all. What it should have been is, because it's mostly for the cape variants, people are going to be looking to get these Yak sacks and get the capes out of them. The main issue should have, well, I mean, it should have been solved right at the start. You shouldn't even have these capes be optional. You should always guarantee them. And the way I'd have done it, I'd have had one on the free track, that was always guaranteed. And you'd then have the other, I think it's other 3 or other 4, all on the premium track. So then for free, you get one cape. If you want the others, you get them maybe as the last 3 tasks of premium or something like that. And you can still have the Axe-Axe, they just give little bits of rewards. Like the other stuff they give is kind of XP and bits like that. There's no problem with having that as a final repeatable task. But when you include these rare cosmetics, it sours it all, right? And Jagex haven't had a good month. It doesn't feel like they've had a good year at all. And I think a lot of it, obviously, it's not the devs' fault, right? The devs they are trying to make what they can. You've seen Zamorak, the actual boss itself is fantastic. The Wilderness update seems pretty good. There's obviously been a few bugs and stuff that would be nice to have been fixed quicker, but in general it seems to have been fairly well received. The problem kind of comes from up high, right? And who owns Jagex, because they are the ones that control most of the decisions. And that's something that Jagex can't do anything about. They're the ones that own them. They're the ones that are giving them the money. It's obviously is a balancing act, because there can be some pushback. You'd hope on some of these things, and they're not completely at their will. Especially, having a game that's been out 20 years, you'd have hoped they'd understand there's a bit of, player investment already in the game. It's not like these all new players coming in. It's people that have spent a lot of time and have a lot of opinions on how the game should be. The problem is, Carlyle Group, they are an investment group, right? They just want to make as much money as they can, as quickly as they can, because they're investing other people's money to make more money. That is their whole job. So it's not like that is their purpose, right? So you can't say they're not doing what they have to. People are expecting a return on their investment. And unfortunately, MTX makes money. I said this at the start of this point. It just makes money, and as long as it keeps making money, it's just going to keep getting pushed. So yeah, that's like the main reason I've not gone back to RuneScape, is just the integrity of the game seems to be completely gone. I obviously only really started playing in 2019, but even since then, I was hoping Yak Track would be a nice, Yak Track at its heart is a nice thing to have, right? It takes away a little bit of, the focus on treasure hunter promotions and stuff like that. And it's, you can unlock some new fun cosmetics, you can get some XP boosts for completing certain skills and stuff like that. It's not a bad thing to have in the game. When you start adding loot boxes and stuff like that, it suddenly becomes a horrible thing. So just don't do it. But whatever. I'm going to obviously stick on the outside of RuneScape. It's hard to completely tear yourself away. But I'm not playing. I'm literally just kind of watching the dumpster fire kind of grow in the horizon and just wondering quite how large it's going to get, or if someone's going to come along and put it out. I hope they do, because it's a game that, I played when I was a kid. It's got a lot of history, a lot of very dedicated people that play it and work on it, right? I can understand why people have been frustrated and had a go at some employees of Jagex, but just don't, they're trying to interact, they're trying to, work with the community for stuff. Now, and a lot of these decisions is hard for them to justify, because they're not necessarily the ones having to make the decisions, but it's not right to attack people. They're doing their job, they're trying to earn a living, they're earning money, and by being on public places like Reddit, stuff like that, a lot of games companies, they don't have people on their subreddit, stuff like that. With RuneScape, it's lucky to have that. It's something. The community interaction is a tricky part of any game developer's job, I suppose. And just don't make it harder than it has to be, right? But yeah, I'm not going to be playing RuneScape. I'm going to keep an eye on the fire. If it gets better, maybe I'll come back. Who knows, man? Who knows?